Before we do that though, we're going to look at the interest rates as they just dropped. Okay. Actually, they went up. They just dropped in terms of like the new ones just dropped, right? Every single week on Thursday, we get a new update. This week's update was a 6.3 going up from last week's 6.23. We had seen a nice steady decline for most part of the year. And then we all of a sudden saw this big spike during this whole thing with Iran. Now, hopefully this is just a temporary spike, and in the future we'll keep seeing a downward turn in interest rates, hopefully to get below 6% that we did see at the beginning of the year in late February. With that being said, interest rates are good for buyers. Higher interest rates could be good for buyers in one regard, and that's going to be in negotiating with the seller. You're going to be able to negotiate a better purchase price with the seller because he's going to have less buyers. Higher interest rates means, yes, it's difficult for buyers to buy, but that also means less buyers for the sellers, okay? Which means that in turn, that creates more opportunities for the buyers that remain on the market, okay? So with that being said, you're gonna use another tool to your advantage here, which is gonna be actual market knowledge, right? You could, again, real estate is a game of levers, right? You're gonna try to pull as many levers as you can to get your return on investment as high as possible. It's not just the leverage that you get from the interest rate that the bank gives you. It's all this market knowledge that you could use with the listing agent, with the seller to drop that price as much as you can. All right. So with that being said, I want you guys to look at this. The amount of houses that came onto the market in the last 7 days, 2,091 homes, and in the same amount of time, 2,068 homes. Basically a 1-to-1 ratio of homes that are coming onto the market and homes that are seeing a price decrease at the same time. So the chances of a house that we see today actually seeing a price decrease in the short-term future is pretty damn high, okay? So again, if you see a property and the property is a B+, right, and you're looking for only properties or A+ kind of properties, well, with this kind of information, you should know that you should probably continue to follow up on that house, right? Because that property could potentially turn it from a B to an A, okay? I've seen cases where properties could be a C property, right? Getting maybe like 12, 13% return on investment, and then jumping up as much as 20% return on investment, just based on the stress that seller could be in, coupled with that he's not getting any offers, and so he needs to sell it. You're able to drive down the price to the right number that could get you maximum returns. So with that being said, let's take a look at the houses that actually hit the market today and see if any of them made sense. So we're gonna come down here, click on new multis, and as you can see, 8 properties popped up today. All right, we like to sort this by price per square foot, starting with the most expensive. And there should be some here, right? Right when you get to the $400 price range, you could start seeing some deals. I got a feeling that this 4.7 million, almost $5 million fourplex in Miami-Dade is not gonna cut it, but let's take a look at it anyhow. All right, the price that they want for this property now is, let's see, here we go. Whoops, sorry there. It is 4.7 million. And it's a fourplex. Right now they're paying $58,039 a year in taxes, which is just ridiculous. Square feet, 8,219 square feet. And the total rent that they said they're collecting is only $3,700. $3,750. So hopefully that's a mistake. Because if not, then this property is totally not worth it. And just so you have an idea, this property right now would need to make about $47,000 a month in rental income for it to start making sense for us. All right, let's take a look at the property, see the quality of the property that we're dealing with. This looks like it's in Miami Beach. Looks like a historic little building here. Okay, so this is a commercial multifamily. Look at this, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 20 units. Okay. Let's look at the guts of this deal. So it looks like this is a commercial multifamily, not a residential multifamily. And so that changes things significantly for us. All right, 3-story building with 19 fully furnished residential units, 12 one-bath, and 7 studios. All units are leased long-term with strong, stable occupancy. Located steps away from the beach, Ocean Drive, da 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 da. Okay, so they say that they have 12 1-1s, and the 1-1s run for $2,100. So let's put this here. By the way, guys, I'm just going to analyze this, although we don't really analyze commercial multifamily. I want to see if this makes any sort of sense. Okay, so there's 12 that are making times 2100. Okay, and then they have, let's see, 7 studios, so equals 7 times 1650. That means that the property is making $36,000, almost $37,000 a month in rental income. On the 1% rule, this property is almost a 0.8, almost an 80% of the 1% rule, which isn't terrible, but we'd like to be a little bit higher than that. However, this property could cash flow if you put as much as 25% down payment, right? It would make about 129% of the mortgage payment in rent. All right, and let's see if these rent numbers are realistic. Let's look at the quality of the property here. We don't have anything on the inside, but if it looks like the outside, which is pretty nice, let's see. They said the 1-1s, right, rent for $2,100. In Miami-Dade, 1-1s could rent for up to $2,350. And being that it's in Miami Beach, in a very desirable location, then maybe that is correct. So I would say that it passes the rent check. Okay, you definitely want to check it out for yourself, because remember, real estate is hyper local. All right. Now, what are the returns on investment this property could get you? Well, as is, the property can get you up to a 12.9% return, which isn't terrible, right? This puts it in this. It's enough of a return on investment to put it in a C range for us. Let's just put this property here, 4.7 mil. It's a commercial 19 unit in Miami-Dade. As is, rents 36,750. Returns as is 12.9. All right. Now, is it possible to raise the rents here? Well, I think we would need to double check. I think that they're already pretty high. So I think that this is the max, unless we could do some homework. But just off the information that we have, this looks like it could be the max rents. Okay. Does the property look like it's in distress? Well, not from the listing. And let's see from the limited folio number information if they own any back taxes or anything. Yeah, so they do. They haven't paid taxes since 2024. And it's a commercial multifamily, so they might have some debt on this that's coming due that's maybe like an adjustable rate. So they might be in serious trouble. They might need to take a haircut here, right? And if we don't get it now, we could get it maybe at foreclosure. So with that being said, where do we think that this property would actually appraise for? Maybe it appraises for less than this, right? But guys, if we could make this property sell for $4 million, right? All of a sudden, this property would be an A property, but this would mean a $700,000 price cut. Okay, but at that point, it could give you returns as good as 20.1%. That's Warren Buffett numbers. Okay, so again, this is commercial multifamily. The way that appraisals work here, the way that the property is it's valued is completely different, okay, than residential multifamily. So we're not going to look into this too much, but I think it's definitely worth it if you're into a commercial multifamily to look into this one a little bit further. However, I do think it needs a little bit more cash flow, but yeah. All right, so the next one up is a $2.6 million, 2.6 fourplex in Miami-Dade. It's currently paying $25,000 a year in taxes. Square feet wise, it has 4,948 square feet. Whoops. There we go. And they don't tell us how much you're collecting in rent, although they do tell us in flood zone AE, which is not the best. But let's see what the property actually looks like. Okay, it's not terrible on the outside, but it's not great on the inside. All right. Yeah, it's not terrible on the inside, but is that just one unit or do they all look like that? Let's look at the guts of this deal so we can figure something else out. So it's in Little Havana. It's an 8-unit multifamily. Okay, so we know now that this is commercial again. All right. Turnkey investment property went a complete interior renovation in 2022 and passed Miami-Dade's mandatory 40-year research. All right, so the unit mix is 7 one-bedrooms, 1 bath, 1 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Okay. All right, so 7 1-1s. So that means that the rent in Little Havana for a 1-1, let's see, guys. The median rent for a 1-1 is $1,600. So let's say he's actually getting $1,800. Equals 1,800 times 7. Whoops. Okay. Equals 1,800 times 7. And then for the 2-1, the median is 2,300. And let's give him 2,400. Okay, so that means that he's probably collecting about $15,000 a month in rent here. So let's write this information down. 2.6 mil, 8plex, commercial, in Miami-Dade. Rents as is, probably about 15K. That means that the returns here are not going to be very good. 7.4%, definitely below the 1% rule. I think way below it. All right. I think that the maximum rents maybe you're able to get here is instead of 1,800, maybe this being 1,900. But $2,400 for a 2-bedroom, I think that maybe you could get 2,500. And I think that the max rents here could be 15.8. Is the property in distress? Let's check it out. It doesn't look like it's in distress. So what's the best? I think that the best that you could probably reduce this price to is going to be maybe 2.4, maybe 2.25. Okay, if you could drop it that much, right? And that, by the way, is 350K drop. The best return there would be a 10%. And so for that reason, between 7.5% returns and 10% returns, I would just go ahead and pass on this property. I would not even go see it. Okay, next up, $729,000 duplex in Miami-Dade. Taxes right now are $12,487 a year in taxes. Interest rates 6.3 what they are. Square feet wise, 1,711 square feet. They don't tell us how much the rents are. Flood zone X, so it's in the best kind of flood zone possible. Let's see what the pictures look like. Oh man, this one's old. Yeah, this property needs some work. So this property looks pretty terrible. All right, let's look at the guts of this deal. Maybe there's something that we're not getting here. 2 separate units on one property. Front structure is divided into a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and a 2-1. Okay, the rear unit is a 1-1. Great for investors, large yard, yada, 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 near UM. All right, let's look at the guts of this. Let's look at the folio numbers, see if we can figure something else out. So it's in Hallandale, multifamily unit. Okay. 2 units. Okay, one's a 3-2, and then another one's a 1-1. So they turn one into a 1. So it's 2 1-1s and 1 2-1. Okay, and we are seeing the quality. If the inside looks anything like the outside, then this is well below the median, right? And we're in Broward County. So 2 1-1s in Broward County. Let's say the median is 1,600. Just based on the condition of the property, I would say that maybe 1,250, and you're lucky to get that, right? So 1,250, and then a 2-1 in Broward County, you could get up to 1,960 median price. I think that this one you're lucky getting 1,600. Okay, so the property could give you returns, I think, based on what we're seeing, 729,000. It's a triplex. It's a duplex turn triplex. Okay, duplex turn triplex in Broward. I think that the rents here are going to be about $4,100 a month, which means that the returns here, guys, are only going to be as good as about 5.7%. Now, I would say that maybe you could get more rents, but there's no pictures. And without any pictures of the inside of the property, we can't really assess if they're able to get more than the median rents in the area. Okay, does this property look like it's in distress? Let's take a quick look. It doesn't look like it's in distress. What's a realistic price drop? You know, I don't think that this guy would be willing to take less than 650 for it. So that means it's a 50 plus 29, so a $79,000 price drop. And even if you did that, guys, this property would probably not cash flow, right? So yeah, this property wouldn't even pay for its own mortgage, even if you put a 25% down payment, right? And even if you did that, The best return on investment this property could yield is a 6.1% over its life. So for that reason, this property is also out. Okay, next up is a $725,000 duplex in Miami-Dade. Right now, it's paying $7,816 a year in taxes. Square feet, 1,765 square feet. All right. Now, doesn't tell us how much you're paying in rent. Let's look at the quality of the property that we're dealing with. So it looks like the Grinch's house, but it looks pretty well maintained. Upside down pictures on the inside, it looks nice. Kitchen is nice. Backyard looks nice. Yeah. I would say this is median to maybe a little bit above median quality on the inside. Let's see. Let's look at the guts of this, see what we can figure out. So it's a duplex. They say it's two twos, each one renting at $1,900 a month. All right, let's look at the folio number here. All right, we don't have much more information. But the thing here, guys, is that this is showing to be a single family home. Even though it's zoned duplex, the land use and the property use is for single family. So it'd be difficult to get an investment loan for a property that's zoned and listed as a single family home here. So they might have turned it into a duplex. All right, let's see if this even makes sense. All right, because they're selling it at $725. Each property makes $1,900 a month. And I think we all know the answer of this one is going to be a no, it doesn't make sense. But let's do it anyway, just to go through the exercise. 1,900, 1,900, zero there, right? The returns here at best would be $3,800. And again, this is a single family home. I didn't see multiple doors, multiple entrance doors. Let's see. Okay, there's one door, and that's the same door right there. Okay. So yeah, this is a single family home, guys. So we're not even going to look at this property. This is not a true duplex. So we're going to discard it. All right, next up, 659,000. All right, it's a duplex in Miami-Dade. Currently, it's paying $8,264 a year in taxes. Interest rate, they tell us, is 6.3%. Square feet, 1,700, 1,701 square feet. Total rent, they said they're collecting $46.50 per month in rent. Okay, and if that's the case, guys, maybe this property is not that bad. Let's see if we could figure something else out. The property on the outside looks pretty nice, all right? It might need some work here. What's happening with that stucco? There's like some cracks, all right? But it's got a really nice big backyard, maybe enough to build an additional dwelling unit. On the inside, it looks pretty decent, except for the box ACs. Not a fan of those. It just diminishes the amount of money that a tenant would be willing to pay when their house is full of like holes with box ACs in them. So I would put this like a tier below median, okay, just in terms of quality of the property. Let's look at the guts of this deal, see what we could figure out. Okay, solid duplex, steady income, a two-story building, 7,200 square foot lot. Okay, unit ground floor has a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, rented for $2,500. Okay, the 3-1 they're saying is getting $2,500, and the second floor has a 2-1 rented for $2,150. Okay. All right, guys, so if that's the case, right, this property barely would pay the mortgage if you put a 25% down payment. The returns would be at best 9.4%. Let's jot this information down for our records. 659 is what they want for this. It's a duplex in Broward. All right, the rents as they are $46.50. That means that the returns, the best return, is going to be a 9.4% return on investment. All right, now is this owner in distress when it comes to taxes? Let's take a look. So it is zoned multifamily. The property use is multifamily. It doesn't look like he owes any back taxes, which is nice for him. Now, possible rents. Let's check out this area, guys, because we are actually, it's in Miami-Dade. in Miami-Dade, a 2-1, sorry, it's a 3-1, is $2,700. Okay, so I think that the inside, if you spruce it up just a little bit, you're able to get the $2,700. Maybe you could put some mini splits in. And then the 2-1, right? You get up to $2,300. So I think that the maximum rent, maybe you could get another 350 bucks, up to $5,000. He's not in distress. And now what's a realistic price drop that we could probably see on this house? I think that this guy would walk away if you gave him 600,000. Okay. So 59K price drop, that would bring the returns on this property as good as 13.2%. And so that would not be all too bad. Now you do want to make sure that, you know, even though this sounds like it's not terrible, right? 13.2% return. And again, you could cash flow on day one with this, using a 25% down payment. You want to make sure that you're able to get those rents for the quality of the product that you're going to be inheriting or buying. So you want to do a hyper-local market study of the rent, and see if you could actually get $2,700 for the 3-1 and $2,300 for the 2-1. Otherwise, then, you know, update the numbers accordingly and see what the returns could be there. All right. But so far, this property doesn't look too bad. It's not the first one I would go check out, but definitely I would do some more homework on it. Okay, we're down to our last three. This one is an $850,000, let's see, duplex in Broward County, paying $14,825 a year in taxes. Square feet, 2,765 square feet. And they are saying that they're collecting $5,500 a month in rent. Okay, flood zone A, E, and X, so it's combined. You're going to pay a bit of a premium because it's in partial flood zone AE. But on the outside, it looks like a, you know, Miami type of South Florida looking structure here. It's got a nice yard, nice little side yard there. Looks like nice tenants. The inside is very tropical, very nice, even though the floor is like a little bit dated. The backyard looks like it has pavers. The kitchen looks like it's pretty new, updated as well. Stainless steel appliances. This one doesn't have stainless steel, but it's still nice. Granite countertops. Yeah, not terrible. I'm not mad about this property at all. All right, let's look at the guts of this deal, see what we could figure out. All right. So it's in Dania Beach. Unit A boasts a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Okay. And unit 2 is a 3-2. So they're saying that for the 3-2, they're collecting $3,100. And they're saying that for the 2-1, they're collecting $2,400. All right. Now, I think that this is going to be right at the top of their market. So the 3-2 in Broward County, they're saying that they're collecting $3,100. Based on this quality of product, I would say that maybe you're able to collect $3,200. Okay, but for the 2-1, $2,400 is going to be right at the top. So let's see, this property is $850K. It's a duplex. It's in Broward. They're saying that the maximum rents are going to be $5,500, but we're thinking we're able to get maybe $3,200 here, and yeah, and I think that for this one you could get $2,400. I think is probably the max here. Okay, so I think that you could maybe go up rents just by another $100 a month, if that. Currently, the way that the property is performing, if you bought it at this purchase price, would be a 6.7%. Actually, no, it wouldn't. It would be a 6.5%. However, I think that there's room to play here, dropping the price down. Okay, and I think if you're able to negotiate this price down to $790, taking $60K off, interest rate would still be less than 10% by a whole lot. As a matter of fact, even if you go down 10% on this property, let's say $90,000, and so you were able to reduce this to $760, the best return on this property would be a 7.5% return. So, and that's dropping it, what? $90K and the best return is only a 7.5. So imagine you have to negotiate the price down $90,000, and on top of that, you need to increase rents by about $100 a month, and it's still making, considerably less than the S&P. So for that reason, I would say no, this property is not worth continuing to look at. Although let's see, maybe they are in some sort of tax. Nope, they're up to date on taxes. So, all right, guys, let's look at our second to last property here. It's a 999,000. Whoops, not a million. $999,000 duplex in Broward County, currently paying $13,507 a year in taxes. Square feet, it's on the bigger side, 3,812 square feet. All right, rent. They don't tell us how much you're collecting in rent. Let's look at the quality of the property. It's pretty nice. Yeah, this is nice. Pool, okay. Pavers. So far, so good. Who gets to use the pool though? And who pays for the maintenance of the pool? Probably you. So that's, it looks great, but so rarely available duplex in Coral Springs. Each site offers a 3-2 and offers a unique feature of true 2-car garages. So maybe you could even turn that into additional space. Okay. The backyard is fully fenced, dividing each yard for yada, yada, yada. All right, let's look at the guts of this. Let's look at the folio number, make sure it's multifamily. And it's not, guys. So this property's use is for single family. The land use is single family. All right. This property is not meant to be a multifamily unit. So for that reason, this property is a big fat fail. Although, dang, it very much looks like a multifamily, doesn't it? That is interesting. So I would look into this, guys. Usually when the folio number tells me that it's a single family home, I just take it as is. But man, this one really, really looks like a duplex. So I would look into this, okay? But if they really do have 2 3-2s, all right, and we're in Coral Springs, what could they rent out for? Okay, and does this property make any sense? Well, a 3-2 in Broward County could go for $2,700. So let's say that this one, because it does look nicer, let's say that you could get $3,300 for it. And it's in Coral Springs, right? That means that the best rents you're going to be able to get here are going to be $6,600, right? Now, they don't tell us what the actual rents are, and that's just giving them the benefit of the doubt here. But even doing that at $999K, right, and paying that much in taxes, the single family home turned into a duplex, only collecting at max, I think, $6,600, would bring you returns nowhere near as good. A 7.3% returns as is. And let's say you drop the price down to 900K. Okay, where would you be? You would be at 8.3% returns, and that's dropping the price 99K. And so for that reason, this property is also something I would just pass on. Too many red flags, and it doesn't make sense. All right, last property that we look at is very accessible price range, $400,000. All right. Taxes, $9,085 a year in taxes. Interest rate, it is what it is. Living area, 1,821 square feet. All right, how much are they paying in? They're not collecting anything in rent right now. We'll take a look at that. Flood zone AE, you're going to pay a bit of a premium on that flood insurance. And let's look at the quality of the property. It looks like it needs some help. All right, now let's look at the guts of this deal so we see what we can figure out. So it's a duplex. Unit 1 offers 2 bedroom, 2 baths, and unit 2 includes 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So it's a 2-2 and a 1-1. Okay. And they say that it's close to the new soccer stadium. Well, a 2-2 in Miami-Dade right, on median, guys, median rents, a 2.2 is going to get you, I would say about $2,300, but because it's maybe like $2,500, but because this property looks like it's in disrepair, I'm going to go on the like lower side and say that this property is going to get you $2,200, even though it's a 2.2. All right, now the 1.1, let's say you get $1,500. Again, I don't know the condition of the unit on the inside, so I'm just guessing here the rents, because again, we don't know the condition. But if you could do that, then this property doesn't look all too bad, right? This property doesn't look all too bad. Yeah, it's almost a 90% on the 1% rule. It's a 0.93. So there's 400K duplex in Miami-Dade collecting 3,700 maybe. All right, that means that the returns could be as good as 11.6%. Now, let's see if this guy's in any kind of distress, because the property is clearly in distress. And yeah, they owe back taxes as far as like last year. Okay, so yes, they are in distress. All right, now what are the possible price drop that we could see here? Right, whoops. I think a good price drop here would be maybe 50K. And so if you can negotiate this guy down to 350, and now, guys, if you could actually increase the rents to just the median of what the 2.2s are actually going to be calling for, let's see here, a 2.2 is going to be, probably like $2,500, and then a 1.1, let's give them the $1,600. If you could actually increase the rents to $4,100, which I think for this area you could possibly do it if the property looks nice. This property could give you returns as good as 26.5%. That's exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, where this property barely makes sense on its own, but once it's turned around, it could really give you a really nice profit margin. And at this price, it's totally accessible. It's something that you could, I think, totally do. And this is something that would cash flow almost on day one, right? Mind you guys, if interest rates were to drop to just what they were in late February, which is 5.98, this property would cash flow day one all day, every day, right? If you could get that price drop and you could secure the higher rents. So with that being said, guys, those were the properties for today. There's some good ones out there, including this last one. So some additional homework is required, of course, for every single property. You want to make sure that you do a hyper-local market study. Have your real estate agent do that for you. If you have any questions or you guys want me to let you know exactly what to tell your real estate agent, just leave it in the comments and I'll leave you a prompt like it was ChatGPT, but you just send it in an email to your real estate agent and have him reply to you. All right, with that being said, I hope that you guys have an awesome day and I'll see you tomorrow.